Hello, today I'm going to talk to you about identity and how I view myself almost 7 years after moving to France. Am I more American? Am I more French? What does that look like? Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Patricia Brooks, and in 2018, I quit my job and I moved to the south of France on a sabbatical. Now I work with people who are ready to start the next chapters of their lives, living in a foreign country, but who have some things that are holding them back, whether it's fear or self-doubt or the need to have more certainty about their next steps. I help them move through that so they can finally get on that plane and make their move abroad. And on this channel, I share my experience living in France, and I talk about moving abroad and how to build the confidence and courage to go for what is most important to you in your life. And today I'm going to talk about identity, because who we are before we move abroad informs how we might experience our new countries. And that was the case for me. When I moved to France, there were cultural differences that I was not anticipating. And I saw how some of them irritated, annoyed, aggravated me. And I knew that was not how I wanted to experience my life in France. And so I worked through many of those things fairly quickly. Other things that were culturally different didn't necessarily hit me as a problem initially. But after being in France for 3 years, I saw them in a new light, because the things that I found inconvenient or uncomfortable, like not having central heating and air, that was something that I was going to be living with if I was going to stay in France long term. And so that kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit later on. Now I have realized that that is the way it's going to be, and living in France is worth it to me to give up some of those things that felt comfortable or convenient to me in the US. All right. So how do I stand? How do I identify? Do I see myself as more French than American? Do I see myself as more American than French? Well, I thought I'd go down a list of things that I wrote here that some French people do or don't do, and kind of measure myself up against them. So the first one on the list has to do with meals. Breakfast. In France, the typical breakfast is a croissant or bread and jam, no meat, no eggs. And I am more American than French when it comes to breakfast. I have eggs every day for breakfast, and that is something I don't see changing. For me, eggs are more stick to the ribs, and I learned to eat more protein when I was on Weight Watchers. So yeah, I'm more American when it comes to breakfast than I am French. But what about lunch? People in France seem to drop everything they're doing at noon to eat. That is when people eat here in France. And I have to say I'm more American than French on this one too, because while I will eat a meal in the middle of the day, it's typically a little bit later than noon. I typically eat around 1, and that has to do with the fact that I eat my breakfast a little bit later, and so that pushes my lunch back a little bit later. And so I'm not stopping and eating at lunchtime. Sometimes I find myself going to the grocery store at lunchtime because fewer people are there. So it's less crowded, and so that's my little trick that I do. So more American than French when it comes to the time that I eat my lunch. But what about dinner? Because dinner here is later than it is in the U.S. In the U.S., it could be as early as 5:30. And here, well, you might have dinner at 7, but it's more likely 7:30 or 8. And I notice if I go on an evening walk and it's 7:30, it is quiet. It is dead. People are getting ready to, have their evening meals. They've had their aperitif and they're ready to eat. But when do I eat my dinner? Well, I have adjusted the hour that I eat my dinner, and I don't eat it so often early, but I'm more of a 7 p.m. dinner kind of person. 8 p.m. feels a little bit late to me. So I'm going to split the difference and say I am turning French when it comes to the hour that I eat my evening meal. All right. So that covers off on meals and meal times. Another thing that I want to say is that when I was in the US, pop culture was something that I was not that into. When I was younger, I was into all of the series and I would binge watch those. But as I grew older, they became less appealing to me. They just didn't do it for me. And so I stopped watching many of the things that many Americans watched before I moved abroad and probably still watch today. And so in that vein, I feel like I was apart from American culture for probably the last 3 or 4 years before I made my move. And so in that vein, I can't claim to be more American than French, although I don't watch a lot of pop culture either. And that's changing because I'm in the process of studying for my DELF exam, the Diplôme Approfondi Langue Française. And I just need to immerse myself as much as I can in hearing French conversations and shows and things of that nature so that when I take the test, it's going to be easier than if I hadn't done that. So one of the ways that I have been working to become more immersed in French pop culture is by watching TV shows and French movies. And France Channel, which has sponsored this video, has helped me a lot. They are the #1 streaming service for all things French. French movies, French TV series, French documentaries, French children's shows, and it's accessible to an English-speaking audience through subtitles. If you love French programming, you will find the quality of France TV's shows top-notch. If you're interested in subscribing either monthly or annually, the folks at France Channel have given me a promo code, Patricia15, and that will give you 15% off. So if that sounds like something that could help you, either with your French culture or with the French language, be sure to check out the link in the description. And with France Channel, one of the series I started to watch recently is called Chefs, and I'm on episode 3 now, and I can't wait to see what happens. So I think for when it comes to pop culture, I think I'm kind of neutral. Not American, not French, but in the middle for now. All right. So what else do I have on my list? Oh, when it comes to sports and soccer. Now, I am not a soccer person. I have never watched a soccer game in its entirety. I'm not sitting out at the cafe watching the soccer games and cheering on France. No. So I will say I'm more American when it comes to that because I do enjoy an American football game so much more than soccer. So no to that. No to soccer. Slowing down. You know, people say they want to make a move abroad because they like the slower pace of life in other countries. And I have to say, it has taken me a while to adjust to this cultural difference because coming from a work environment where it's go, 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 it's hard to unplug and just kind of relax. And I came to France on a sabbatical, which meant I didn't have a job to go into. I didn't have a set schedule. And that was hard to experience. And so I found myself feeling like, oh, I should be doing this or I should be doing that. Now that I have a business, there's always a lot to do. But I have found over probably the last 18 months, I have been able to slow down. I've been able to say, yeah, I've got a lot of work to do, but I'm going to go to that classical music concert in Banyuls-sur-Mer. And I take the time off to do that. Oh, yeah, I might be busy, but I'm going to take off time to go meet this person who is Canadian and found me on the internet, and we're going to have coffee together. And I do it and not feel guilty. I do it and am able to relax. And I think that is the caveat, because you might stop the go, do, but when you do and you are out, quote unquote, enjoying yourself, are you able to relax? And I feel like I absolutely have started to take on this, all work and no play makes Patricia a dull girl. And I do take time out for myself. So I will put that in the Becoming More French column. Another thing that I have noticed about myself is that I have become a lot more patient. I think the French administration and the speed or the lack thereof in French administration has caused me to be more patient. I know probably 2 years in to my life here, I was waiting at a bus stop for the bus to come. And the bus was 30 minutes late. And there were other people sitting waiting for the bus. And they were waiting patiently. They weren't looking at their watches. They weren't shifting in their chair in the seats. They were just waiting patiently, like the bus will come. And I, on the other hand, 5 minutes after the bus was late, was looking at my watch and looking around and thinking to myself, where's the bus? So you can imagine how I felt 25 minutes later when the bus still had not arrived. I was not having it. I got up and I started walking away from the bus stop while everybody else waited patiently for the bus to come. And as soon as I got far enough away that I would have to run back to catch the bus, what came around the corner but the bus? And so I hightailed it back to the bus and caught the bus. But everybody else seemed to be so patient. Now, I think that I have built my patience muscle. A year and a half ago, I had my passport renewed, and I sent it to Marseille to be renewed, to the American consulate there. And I sent a self-addressed stamped envelope to have it overnighted back to me. And this was in January, beginning of January. 7 or 8 days later, I decided, well, I haven't received it back. I guess I should check the website to see where it is. Well, lo and behold, my passport had been sent back to me 5 days earlier. And here I'm sitting waiting patiently because I have learned to be more patient. The thing that I didn't factor in was that this wasn't French administration. This was U.S. administration, and it was quicker, right? So I will say that I am becoming more patient, and I will put that in the Becoming More French column. Standing my ground when I'm walking down the street. Now, this is something that had been a pet peeve of mine, how people just will walk 3, 4 across on a very narrow sidewalk. And I'm coming one person and nobody wants to move out of my way so that I can get by as they're coming toward me and I'm moving toward them. And I have learned to stand my ground and not jump out of the way because I see that it's the way, it's almost like a dance. You get so close that you almost touch and then you kind of slide out of the way. And that's the way it is. And for me, that's not how I did it in the States. But now I have learned to stand my ground on the streets. So I'm going to put that in the French column, turning more French. And 2 more. The bis, the kisses on either side of the cheek. In the beginning, when I would meet up with French friends, they would do that. And to me, it just felt awkward. In the U.S., we are more of huggers. And so the bis just felt artificial. And then I got more comfortable with it. And then COVID happened. And so that kind of put the kibosh on that for a while. But the bis has come back. And surprisingly for me, who can be a little bit of a germaphobe, I still do the bis. And so I feel like I'm going to put that in the French column too. And finally, when you enter a store or when you leave a store here in France, it is customary to say bonjour and au revoir, right? Even if, the person is just behind the counter and you're just coming in, it's not like you have a question. You say bonjour as you enter. And then when you leave, you say au revoir. And that is the way you do it. And I do that every time I go into a store now. So I'm going to put that in the French column. So I don't know what the tally is. I didn't think to count them up, but it feels like I'm kind of like in the middle, that some parts of my habits are turning French while others are still quite American. But there is a test. There is a true test that I experienced about 6 weeks ago. I was watching the Olympics that took place in Paris in the summer, and I didn't watch a ton of them until the last few days. And that very last day, there was a basketball match. It was a women's basketball match between France and the U.S. It was the final. And so I turned on the TV and I started watching. Now, I'm not a basketball person. I have never watched a basketball game in its entirety in my life. And so this was the first game that I had done that with. Toward the end of the game, 4 minutes left in the game, I started to feel anxious because it was a close game. It was a nail biter. And I was feeling anxious and on the edge of my seat. And I thought to myself, Patricia, this is not a comfortable feeling. And you don't even have to feel this way because, as the saying goes, you don't have a dog in that fight. If France wins, that's fine because you're living in France. If the U.S. wins, that's fine too because you're American. So I rationalized and told myself, it doesn't matter who wins because you're going to win either way. You've got a team on either side. You're going to win either way. Well, the time is ticking down. There's 1 minute left. It's still so close. They're making errors. They've got these penalty shots. It's going back and forth. And I am just going crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope the U.S. wins. I hope the U.S. wins. I hope the U.S. wins. And at that moment, I thought, oh, Patricia, yeah, you're not turning French. You're still American, which is okay because I'm proud to be an American. I can't always say that that was the case in the beginning because of the crazy political climate that had just started when I moved to France. And I felt like I was the spokesperson for that, which I didn't have an answer to. So, and that felt uncomfortable. So I could find myself often saying to French people, when they asked me where I was from, I would say, je viens des États-Unis, in place of saying I am an American, right? Je suis américain, because that gave me a little bit of distance. But now I'm good. I'm American. I know that. I embrace that. I love France too. France is my country. I love the French culture. I love the French language. So I've got a good balance of identity between French and American. So there you have it. If you are planning a move to France or some other country and you feel like you might struggle with the cultural differences and you're changing self-identity and you want to be better prepared to face that once you make your move, I'd love to have a conversation to see where you are in your process, what things might be holding you back from making better progress and building more momentum, and to see if our working together could help you get to your dream country sooner and with more ease. So check out the link in the description and schedule your complimentary discovery Zoom call, where we can have that conversation. And if you are planning a move abroad, but you're good, you feel like you've got this, but would love to pick my brain about my process to getting to France and what my experiences are, and you have questions for me, I've got something for you too. I have an information session, which is 30 minutes, and it is a paid session. So if you're interested in that, check the link in the description as well. These are both Zoom calls, and I so look forward to talking with you soon. Now, that is all I have for you today. Be sure to subscribe, like this video, and share it with friends. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye for now.